people kept telling me, you're going to get baby blues, you'll get postnatal. They sort of told me all these things, and
it's a given.
Yeah, because you're a solo parent and you've got twins, and I was
things
like,
are stacked against you.
I am fairly confident.
Yeah, good
Not
on
that
you.
I didn't think I wouldn't, and I know it can happen at any time. It could happen years later or whatever. But I was just so grateful to have my girls, and just loved every moment of it, and still do.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to No Place Like Home. I'm your host Larissa, and we're here with Claire again.
Hi.
And we are back with Caterina. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So last episode we chatted about your choice in solo parenting and your pregnancy. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and have a listen. It was a great little chat. Today we're going to chat more about mothering multiples.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this isn't talked about enough either. There are lots of parents that have multiples, and I think it kind of just gets overlooked a lot of the time. How did you prepare emotionally and mentally for the arrival of the girls?
Look, I was so excited, but also scared at the same time. I remember there'd be some nights where I woke up and then I would go, how am I going to do this? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
There's one of me, there's two of them, they've outnumbered me.
Already.
Yeah.
Instant family.
Yeah, and then I just kept saying, no, this is just beautiful and this is what you want, and, just reiterating that. And I guess just I'm a bit of a nerd in a way, as in like I do a lot of research and reading and really want to try to understand it all. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of twin-specific classes, pregnancy classes. And
did you find there were a lot of them? Was there a lot available?
well, it's funny, I found a few, but I was still working at the time and I could never really get to them. So eventually I could. And the Australian Multiple Birth Society, each area has their own. So I joined my local area, and they were great. They were fantastic, and they constantly, send you newsletters about things and offer advice. They were wonderful.
That's great.
Then in the hospital that I went to, they also had a twin-specific class.
Oh,
amazing.
Yeah, so that was excellent.
And did that give you a balance of both practical as well as kind of mental, emotional advice?
Absolutely. So that really helped me, and also joining like Facebook groups.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. They're still on them. They're fantastic because sometimes you're unsure about things, and you can find out from other multiple twin parents.
Yeah.
What practical kind of things could you do to prepare?
Good question. I guess buying things that you needed. Like the most important thing I think for me was, it's called the Twin Z pillow. So it's a twin-specific feeding pillow. So if you're breastfeeding, you can hold both.
Right.
Amazing.
Sort of comfortably. sort of.
Yeah.
It's hard to hold two babies, but it works. Or if you're bottle feeding, putting them on there to feed.
Okay.
And that definitely is probably like helped me the most.
Right.
Because, feeding is so important. So having that. And then just like obviously you needed a double pram. I even bought a double carrier where you hold two babies, but I couldn't do it.
Wow.
It's really hard.
That would be for
me anyway.
Hard. Yeah, you're a tiny person. That would be
like you hold them on sort of your side, and and obviously you can only put them in when they're a certain weight. By the time they're that weight, like, well, this is really heavy. I can't. You can't actually do anything.
Yeah, practical but impractical at the same time.
I got all those things that I thought I would need and utilise, but that one didn't. That failed for me.
Is the this is my curiosity, is the advice around how twins sleep for them to sleep together?
Yes, there is. That's the one thing. It's funny, one of the classes they said, you've always heard that expression, don't wake a sleeping baby. They said, but you wake a sleeping twin baby, because if you don't, then they're going to get out of sync and you're never going to rest, especially in the early months or weeks where you're having to feed every 3 hours.
Yeah.
So if you don't wake them together, you're going to get one that's asleep and then the other one will wake up and then you'll be 24 hours like, looking after them, feeding, changing them. So that was one advice that they gave us. And I was like, I'm so glad they told us that, because I would have just thought, just let her sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then there was times though where one was asleep and I thought, it was nice to have that one-on-one with just one of them at a time. So I did do that a couple of times, but usually I'd wake them if one had woken up.
What was included in the classes that you took? Was it, because obviously you were pregnant, was it mainly focused on pregnancy and birth, or was there a lot about the after?
There surprisingly was, especially around like making sure you had meals, and the Multiple Birth Society, they offer like a meal train.
Oh,
that's amazing.
So if you wanted to, be part of that, so that was wonderful. So
that's incredible.
So it creates a community or a village,
an instant. Like that to me is just like, why wouldn't you do that for every?
I know, for every mother, family.
Like I completely understand why for multiple parents, but wow.
Yeah, so they did like speak about that and just, creating your village and make sure you had that help around you, and so it was wonderful. So much great advice.
Do you think that planning for your postpartum and that village, calling in that village, looked different because you were pregnant with multiples?
Yeah, possibly, because it's funny when people hear you're having twins, they're like, oh, you can't do that. Like it's almost not that they expect you to fail. They just think, oh, you're one person. You can't. You need help. That type of thing. But maybe if there was only one, they'll think, oh, you've got this. It's just one. I don't know. But so maybe being a twin parent, people are more eager to help because they realise how tricky it is with one child, let alone two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you being solo, doing this solo as well, probably would have added that other layer of people almost possibly being concerned.
Exactly right. It's so true. When I left the hospital, because they do like a rooming in program if your baby's in NICU or special care.
Right.
So they don't just go, here you go, see you later. You sleep at the hospital for 2 nights with the babies in your room. So you get to experience that you haven't yet because they were in special care.
That's so clever. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they have rooms there, and the lady that sort of runs the department, she kept saying to me, have you got help at home? I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, she's like, who's staying with you? I'm like, oh, I'm just on my own. She's like, no, you need help. Like she was very adamant. And she's like, you need someone to stay with you. You can't do this on your own. Like, so it was really like they really cared for you and made sure that they weren't just throwing you in the deep end with, here you go, off you go. So
and did you have someone come and stay with you in those early weeks?
Not throughout the night, because maybe I'm a bit stubborn. I could do this, doing it. So, but during the day, I did get help during the day. But at night,
how were those nights for you?
Look, in my mind, I kept thinking, this is just a short period of their life. Like that you're going to have to get up every 3 hours and feed and do all of that. And they were long and hard, but I still managed to get some sleep, some chunks of sleep, which was handy.
Good on you.
But I just kept saying, and then it's they're my first babies. It's such an exciting process, things that you're going through, and also a challenge. But I
remember coming to you in the nights when you were here, and even with the broken sleep, you still had such a happy disposition.
Oh, that's nice.
So I was like, gosh, it's so hard being woken every 3 hours, but you're like, I've got my babies and I'm just happy to be doing this.
That's right. And I was fortunate enough to be able to breastfeed, and I know some women can't, and I love it. I was like, this is so cool. I can breastfeed them, So I just think that's beautiful. So I love doing that.
Absolutely. I just think the way that you have embraced motherhood, Caterina, is just so beautiful.
Thank you.
It was a real theme and a message that when I would touch in with the team while I was away, everyone would say, we just can't believe how much she is just enjoying motherhood. And I think, postpartum, because of the statistics of, the mental health around postpartum gets a really bad rap. And I think particularly for us here at home when we're caring for women and parents, we do see a lot of the really hard parts of it. So I think it was so beautifully refreshing when we cared for you and the girls that there was just this beautiful gratefulness, and not to say that no one is grateful, but it was just this this embracing of motherhood that you brought to the space, which was just so beautiful. It was really joyful.
That's nice.
So yeah, I really admire that.
Oh, thank you.
Because that would have been a really not a tough decision if it was something that you really wanted to do, but solo parenting, I assume you don't make that decision lightly.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you do have that fear of, it's funny because, people kept telling me, you're going to get baby blues, you'll get postnatal. They sort of told me all these things and
it's a given.
Yeah, because you're a solo parent and you've got twins. And I was
things are stacked against you.
I am fairly confident.
Yeah, good
Not
on
that
you.
I didn't think I wouldn't, and I know it can happen at any time. It could happen years later or whatever. But, I was just so grateful to have my girls and, just loved every moment of it and still do.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenging parts about that early postpartum?
Definitely the feeding cycle, because they're so tiny and you have to feed them every 3 hours because you don't want them to have to be readmitted to hospital, because that can happen if they're underway. So that part was, and because I was breastfeeding and then I was expressing so I could top them up, because when you start you don't know how much they've eaten.
Yeah.
So that was exhausting, I think, that part of the feeding. But it's all part of it, and you just
getting that cycle, how difficult was it to get that feeding, then changing, then resettling them? Did you kind of get yourself into a routine?
Yeah,
quite quickly, or
it became routine, like a rhythm to it.
Yes, a rhythm.
Dun, dun, dun. And obviously every day's different. Some days. But luckily at the start, the girls were pretty, and I think maybe because they were in special care, they were really good at settling themselves. Because, they didn't, obviously the nurses and midwives look after them, but they've got other, children to look after. They can't be focused on that.
They're not holding them to sleep and rocking them.
So
they're just popping them down.
was lucky I could just pop them down and they fall asleep.
Do they sleep together or do they sleep separate?
They sleep separate.
Yeah.
They just, especially now, they move around too much.
Right.
And they, so they were used to, feeding, burping, popping down and going to bed. So, and I think too, also having twins, you realise, you can't sort of hold them both and try. You can try. It's very hard to by yourself.
Yeah.
So I sort of had no choice. I had to pop them down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that helped me just to get them settled.
I know we've chatted off air about how you tell the difference now.
Yes.
But in the early days, was it as obvious to tell them apart because they are identical?
Yeah. Well, it was because Gigi was a little bit smaller.
Right. Okay.
So that was, you could see straight away just by looking at, she's the smaller one. I think there was 300 grams difference.
Yeah, which on a tiny baby is a lot. Right?
Yeah. So that's how I could tell at the start. It's funny because some people go, are you sure they're identical? I'm like, well, yeah, of course they are. I haven't made it up. They've come from one embryo. Yes, they're identical because they did look different because of their different weights.
Sizes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For anyone listening who may not know, it's not that they look identical, although they share the same DNA.
Yes, that's right. So it's confusing, isn't it, when you think about it? So they can have differences because I guess your DNA makeup can be slight, variations.
Yeah. Our producer Rachel is also an identical twin.
Yes,
and whenever I see her and her sister together, I can tell slight nuances.
Yes.
But I understand if you saw them just walking down the street, you'd be like, oh, wow. That's wild. You know.
And I think with little babies as well, because you often, dress them matching and things like that, it makes the identicalness seem more.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
Some people say to me, do you always dress them alike? I said, no, it just so happens, obviously people generally give you the same outfit, so you put them on, but then if one needs a change, I'm not going to change the other one to match. I'm like, no, we're just changing one.
Let's keep the workload to a minimum here, guys.
Exactly.
Multiple pregnancies can result from two main scenarios. So identical multiples. I'm going to get this wrong, so just bear with me. Identical multiples, which happen when a single fertilized egg splits into two or more embryos, and that's the girls.
Yes, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. And then fraternal multiples occur when multiple eggs are released and fertilized by different sperm.
Yes.
Yep, there we go. More of a statement than a question.
And there's like the difference between one or two placentas,
Yes.
right? So did the girls have
They shared a placenta.
one placenta? Yeah.
But had two sacs. So, and then Lockie at work, he has twins, but two placentas, two sacs. So they're non-identical, two little girls too. So,
Interesting.
Right, okay.
So, and sharing a placenta obviously has a higher risk because there's more complications that can arise. So
one twin can get more nutrition than the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. They're still quite young.
Yes.
But have they shown you any particular personality traits?
Not yet, really, because they vary from day to day. One day, Gigi might be super chill, laughing, giggling, best day. And then the next day, she and Dolly will be super chill and like peace and love. They definitely haven't shown me any strong personality traits yet.
Oh, wow.
What do you think are some of the unique joys about multiples that you didn't expect maybe?
I think like you just get like double of everything, like double smiles, double hugs and kisses, and that's really special.
Yeah.
Like, especially when they wake up in the morning and I go to pick them up and they're just their big smile at you. I'm like, oh, that's one thing that's pretty special.
Super sweet.
If you could give one piece of advice to parents preparing for twins, what would that piece of advice be?
Look, I think the more organised you can be, the better. Like even like, going out, I always make sure I've got the nappy bag ready, milk's ready in the fridge, like all of those things, just being organised, ready to go. And I keep like nappies in the boot of the car just in case, but that's sort of a bit of my personality too. So maybe not everyone's can be like that, but that has helped me being organised with twins.
Yeah. I just think this journey has been so great for everyone to listen to and hear. I'm sure there's lots of parents out there that are listening that know who you are from having maybe toddlers and little kids. So thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. We've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you guys. I loved it.
We will put a whole lot of links in the place below underneath where I don't know the technical term for where that is, but we will pop all the links that you've mentioned today for associations and organisations for anyone else out there who is preparing to be a parent of a multiple or currently a multiple and doesn't know about some organisations that they can reach out to for help. So thank you again for being with us, Caterina. We've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media, at home postpartum.